everybody, I'm Mary Anne.
And I'm Olivia.
This is the Related to Motherhood podcast, and this is part 2 of our discussion about the Proverbs 31 woman. We planned to make this one episode, and we talked for a very long time about it. We had an outline, and we followed the outline. But for some reason, we like to talk, apparently.
Yeah, we're very passionate.
And we like to talk, and we talked a lot, and so we split it into 2 episodes. Thank you for coming back for part 2. If you haven't seen part 1, I'll link it below and put it in the cards. I might have cut it at a sort of awkward part because, like I said, we didn't plan to make this 2 parts, but let's just dive right back in.
Yeah.
Part 2, all about the Proverbs 31 woman. All right, so she has no fear of winter for her household, for everyone has warm clothes. Love that. She has no fear of the future. She has prepared to the best of her ability. She's laid the rest down on the feet of the Lord. Verse 22, she makes her own bedspreads.
I go to Target for my...
This is wisdom, not prescription, okay? She makes her own bedspreads. She dresses in fine linen and purple gowns. So that's interesting. I didn't look up commentary about that because I really just wanted it to speak to us. And it kind of contradicts a little bit like how we shouldn't be dressing conspicuously. You know, I don't know. Where does it fall for you?
So to me, it reads, yes, I know what it's saying, but to me, what I got out of it is that she's dressed in her best. She's, like we've talked about for our kids. We want our kids to be clean and tidy. She's tidy. She's not, to me, that's what that means.
Yeah, I love that. I'm pretty sure the color purple when it comes to clothing in the
royalty.
Bible, it's kind of royal. The person wearing it is held in high esteem and high regard. Yeah. And I love what you said about neat and tidy. I tell my daughter, she's 3. She's an absolute wild child, like barefoot, crazy hair most of the time. But I tell her, all right, it's time to brush our hair. We want to present ourselves as being neat and tidy. And that is a value for me. I don't think it has to be a value for everyone. But for me, I don't want us to be self-centered in the way that we look or dress or behave or anything, but I do want us to present ourselves well. Yeah. I want us to look neat and tidy.
I agree. And I think that's why a lot of people, you'll hear people talk about church on Sunday and they'll talk about their Sunday best. And to a lot of people that looks different, but it's just about feeling good and clean and tidy and just coming to God with our best,
Exactly.
That's how I see it.
And it just depends on what you wear on a normal day or what culture you live in. Like if you're going to a beach church in Hawaii, that would look a lot different. Yeah, don't come before the Lord wearing scraps if you have something better.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Verse 23. Her husband is well known at the city gates where he sits with the other civic leaders. I thought that was interesting because this theoretical, fictional, ideal woman has a high value husband that's held in high esteem in the community. And in a lot of ways, I think people think that's out of their control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, I just think, again, to me, that verse says that her husband is just involved. He's involved with maybe the church. He's involved with the school board. He's involved with bringing snacks to the class, whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? He's just involved. He's involved and he cares,
That's interesting perspective.
Yeah.
I was thinking, I wasn't thinking in that. I was thinking of it from a different perspective of that women and men, when they're young, when they're kind of on the hunt for a spouse, right? It's all about the pheromones and who they fall in love with and who they... oops, I just ended up with this person and he's not ideal, right? You see these things online or we know people and we can maybe get into mine and my husband's story one day, but it's whoops, I just ended up with a deadbeat person who's not taking care of the kids. Choosing your spouse is one of the most important decisions you'll ever make in your life. And people in our culture take it so willy-nilly. Yeah. This person you choose as a spouse is your business partner, is the father of your children, is your confidant and is your support system. Like, choosing that person rightly and with intention and with wisdom is so important.
I think a lot of the reason people in our culture take it so willy-nilly is because divorce rates. Like, divorce is just an option.
Easy to get divorced.
It's just, it doesn't work out. I don't like this person today. Like, I'm just going to end it. Whereas we believe that marriage is sacred and it's a covenant. So picking your partner, your life partner, the father of your children is like super, super important.
I think some people might look at this and be like, wow, she sure got lucky with a highly esteemed man who's respected in the community. Like, oh, she's so lucky. But very likely, I mean, almost certainly, she and her husband were matched or you know, in this ideal situation. Yeah. Not even arranged, but she selected a high value partner. You know what I mean? And he selected a high value partner. Like, they're both being quote unquote their best selves, and so they attract the best person for them.
Yeah.
Versus people who are acting certain ways, portraying certain images, like living a certain lifestyle, and they're like, why can't I find a good man? But you're not attracting that kind of man.
Yeah. It's very, very contradicting.
So who knows? Like, I'm probably reading into this verse a little bit, but that's the first thing that jumped out to me is like, her husband seems like a baller too, and it's because they're properly matched.
Yes, and I think too, I don't know why I keep thinking about this, but like, that looks different for different people. So like, that could mean that he's like a CEO of a business and like rolling in it, or that could mean that he is like a farmer and just, you know what I'm saying, working hard. And I say that to encourage you that like, you don't have to marry a CEO and it's fine.
Verse 24, she makes belted linen garment. So she makes her own bedspreads. She makes her own belted linen garments and sashes to sell to the merchants. Again, she's very entrepreneurial.
Yeah. She's savvy. That's the word I like, savvy.
Verse 25, one of my favorite verses in this chapter. She's clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future. Like, I want to be that. And I am that a lot of times. And then I get the anxiety where I just feel like, oh, this is how I always am. And I'm not. Like, I do love life, enjoy life, have fun with my family. I have such a grateful heart. But that anxiety creeps in. And then I'm not laughing with no fear of the future.
Yeah. No, the laughing without fear of a future. I mean, I don't know if it's like this for everyone, but for me, it's like a muscle that you have to build. It's not something that just comes naturally. It's something you have to, like I said, keep laying at the feet of Jesus. And then you get that. That's like a side effect of it.
I love it. That is just such a beautiful verse. She laughs without fear of the future. Verse 26, when she speaks, her words are wise, and she gives instruction with kindness.
So that's a tough one. With kindness part of it, because how many times are we just quick to like jab
with our husbands, with our kids? It's probably mostly with our husbands, with our kids. If you are a sort of business owner, you could do it with your employees. And
read that verse again. I want to hear it one more time.
Verse 26, when she speaks, her words are wise, and she gives instructions with kindness.
You know what I also think that plays into? Gossiping. She's not a gossip. I heard something this week, and I'm actually going to have you watch this message, and it like just shifted my mindset about gossiping. But we are a temple. Others who are believers are a temple. And there's a verse, I'm not sure where it's at. I'll send you we'll link it or something. But it's by Francis. It's a sermon by Francis Chan. And he's talking about, the sermon is, the title is Put the Hammer Down. And he's talking about how, these, I guess, people were going in and they were talking about they were going to break the temple with these hammers or something like that. I don't remember the context because my mind was just blown the whole time. But he was talking about how we're temples, and when we're gossiping, we're having a hammer towards that person and we're breaking their temple. So, and he says that like if you do that, like you're setting yourself up for death, because the wages of sin is death. You know what I'm saying? So, it just really like blew my mind. Like, obviously everyone has been guilty of gossip at some point in their life, but it really did just like, God does not mess around with it. He doesn't mess around with his kids. And I feel like sometimes we can think about like, well, I'm his kid, but so is Mary, and so is so-and-so, you know?
I love that you brought up gossip, because that is not the first thing that came to my mind, but so good. I mean, it says she speaks with, or her words are wise.
Yeah.
And gossip is never wise.
Yeah.
There's never an edifying or proper reason to gossip about somebody. And so, yeah.
I think not only gossip, but cutting people down or
belittling.
Yeah. Just anything that's like negative. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not saying it out loud. And I say this a lot on the podcast, but like when you say something out loud, like you're giving life to it. Don't do it.
And we are speaking mostly to moms on this podcast. And so the first thing that probably comes to most of your minds is how you're interacting with your kids.
Yeah.
It's not saying don't give instruction. She gives instruction, but it's with kindness.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very, very, very cool. I like that verse a lot.
Verse 27. This is a good one. Are they all good? I think they're all good. She carefully watches everything in her household and suffers nothing from laziness.
Yep, she's not lazy. So, you know, we talked about earlier that she had help, but she's still not lazy. She's still keeping herself busy with whatever it is. She's working hard.
I love that. If you don't mind looking up what your translation says, I love that it says, this is verse 27 when you look it up. She carefully watches everything in her household. I love that. Well, what's your translation say?
She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness.
I love that. I love that she's like an overseer of her whole household.
Yep.
So the man and the woman have different role, not different value, but different roles in the confines of marriage and in the church and in parenting and running a household. And you would think like the man would oversee, you know, it says she carefully watches everything in her household. Like she is the one like keeping the wheels greased. You know what I mean? She's the one making sure things are going smoothly. So often as a mom, it's easy to feel burdened by like, you're the one that has to pack for vacation. You're the one that has to make sure nothing is forgotten. You're the one that has to, you know, and obviously that's not the dynamic for everyone, but typically the woman's the one that makes sure, you know, everyone's toothbrushes are packed and all the kids' clothes are packed. And there's so much work that goes into a vacation that you see people, including myself, who's like, it's just not fair. You've got this burden put on you where you're the one making sure everything is coordinated correctly. But that's because we're good at it.
Yeah. It's because God gave us the gift to do it, I feel like.
And I love, there's an account on Instagram, Tessa Romero, and I love some of the encouragement that she shares. Like, she's the mom. This is what she says. I'm the mom. I get to be the one who knows how my kids like their sandwiches cut.
Yeah.
Like, I get to be the person who knows how to properly pack the car for vacation. Like you can look at it as a burden, or you can look at it like, I'm important here. Like
you're
a
vital.
pivotal piece. I'm vital. And so many things, I'm the one keeping these wheels greased, right? And it can be a burden. Like everything we ever say, it's mindset. It can be a burden or it can be a privilege.
Yeah. It's just like we were talking about my son. He's very much so still his mom's baby. And he will yell through the house, or he'll be sitting on the couch with me and his dad, and he'll say, "Hey, could you get me a banana?" And I'll be like in the middle of doing something, and I'll be like, "Your dad is right there." But seriously though, like how, if you can shift, and it is hard, some days it's hard to like shift your mind to that, but how special is it that like I'm the safety, I am the one who comes to mind.
Yeah.
You know?
You're the one who oversees everything going on within the home.
Yeah.
And you got it. You know how to do it best.
God made me for it.
All right. Verse 28. I love this. Her children stand and bless her. Her husband praises her. There are many virtuous and capable women in the world, but you surpass them all. I don't think that literally means, I mean, some people could argue this is the best woman in the world, but she's fictional. Her husband and her children think she's the best woman in the world. How awesome is that? She's serving them so well, and she loves them so unconditionally. And she really is a servant to her family, just in the way that her husband should be a servant to her. But she surpasses all other women and all other moms, all other wives in the eyes of her children or her husband.
Yeah, that's so sweet. And I also like just hearing that, you would think that that means that her husband's telling her that. So like how, that's also like a testament to the man, like tell your wives like how proud you are of her and how, you know, vital she is in your family dynamic of life, you know?
That's exactly right. I don't know if you were looking at it, but it says her husband praises her, and then in quotes, this is what he's saying to his wife. There are many virtuous and capable women in the world, but you surpass them all. I didn't even notice that he is outwardly singing her praises, and how wise is it for all men to outwardly sing the praises of their wives?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, oh, wife, you surpass them
you
all.
You are the best, girl.
You're the best.
Girl.
Verse 30. This is, in my opinion, the linchpin of the whole chapter. The most important part. And this is what I want to tell that mom who on Instagram you said she's giving up trying to be the Proverbs 31 woman because it's so unattainable to achieve this perfection. Verse 30. Charm is deceitful and beauty does not last, but a woman who fears the Lord will be praised. Number one thing. It's not about what you do. It's not about what you look like. It's not about how good you are or what your family thinks of you. A woman who fears the Lord will be greatly praised.
Yeah. Honestly, if I were writing this verse or this passage, I would have put that first. So I would have put that first because all the other things are just, okay, this is the way I see it. If you do that first, the other things more than likely will come. Does that make sense? So fearing the Lord makes you want to be kind in your words. Fearing the Lord makes you want to be tidier. Fearing the Lord makes you sometimes want to wake up earlier and be, you know, preparing food for your family. So I think it should have been first, but that's just me. I'll talk to God about it when I get to heaven.
All right. Charm is deceitful. Beauty does not last, but a woman who fears the Lord will be greatly praised. How encouraging that it's not a woman who bakes bread for her family will be greatly praised, or a woman who is really financially prudent will be greatly praised. It's a woman who fears the Lord will be greatly praised, and that is attainable for every single woman listening.
Yes, it is.
Verse 31, reward her for all she has done. Let her deeds publicly declare her praise, which I love that because it's her deeds that are reflecting her fear of the Lord, right? It's her works that are reflecting her faith. It's not that you can just declare your faith in the Lord and say you fear him and check mark the box, you're going to heaven, woo woo, and then live however you want to live. Your deeds and your works publicly declare what you believe in your heart.
Yeah. So the whole key and the meat and potatoes of the whole thing is fearing the Lord. And then the rest is just a residual of you doing that. The rest is just, I mean, I know it's not a commandment, but it's kind of a commandment. Fear the Lord, you know, and then the rest are things that will come.
So many women in our culture who in their Instagram bio it says like John 3:16, like Jesus first, and then you can just glance at their feed and you're like, girl, you know, your works, your presentation of yourself to the world, those things reflect your heart.
Yeah.
And if you're not living in a way that's edifying to others, that's encouraging to your family, that's honoring the Lord, that's obeying his word,
Yeah.
then you need to take a real heart reflection of what's going on, because it's not a check mark, check mark, you're good to go, now live however you want. Like,
saying you love Jesus isn't like a magic pill that you can take and just automatically you're living for him and all that. No, like you have to actually do it. Remind things.
That totally brings it full circle to what we were saying at the beginning of the episode, where it's the baby Christians that are walking around where they only know what the Bible says based on snippets from sermons on Instagram reels, or from a devotion they do with the women's Bible study for like 4 weeks,
Right.
or they go to Sunday sermons where it's kind of like a self-help talk instead of like digging into the word. They might not even know what God says about certain issues because they're not reading his word and understanding it.
Yeah, you definitely have to deep dive all of the devotionals and the pastor, like, you'll go on Instagram and it'll be a church's Instagram account and they'll have like just the juicy part of the sermon. Like, that's awesome in my opinion, but you have to like go and dig a little deeper and like, what is the context? What is God actually saying here?
Those are awesome for inspiration.
Yeah, but dig deep and figure out like, what is he actually saying? Because you're going to that's how you're going to grow, and you're going to get so much more out of it if you do that.
Well, it's not just also about what you're getting out of it, but it's developing the actual relationship with God.
Yeah.
It's sort of like trying to develop a relationship with your future husband based off of just what he's posting on Instagram, right? There's no depth there at all. And so I've really enjoyed in the last week reading this passage, Proverbs 31, over and over and over, and meditating on it and being encouraged by it, using it as inspiration. Oh, we've already talked. We've already gone over our hour mark. I'm going to have to cut some
We're going to
sections.
have like 2 hours.
I'm going to have to cut some sections out to make this a more reasonable time frame. But I did want to do something else with you. I didn't want to just leave it here. I really wanted us to talk about, it's going to add another 30 minutes. But honestly, I really wanted us to talk about the qualities you feel like you're doing really well based on the Proverbs 31 woman. And I'll say the qualities I think I'm doing really well, and then what we plan to work on.
Yeah.
And I didn't ask you if you wanted to work on it. I'm telling you, there's some things you're going to work on and I'm going to work on in the next month, and we'll be little accountability buddies. Sarah said she would help be my accountability buddy. She's in my life. My friend Sarah's in my life like every day.
Yeah.
And so I'll put on the screen here, if you're watching on YouTube or on Spotify, all of the values and attributes and characteristics that I pulled out from being a Proverbs 31 woman. I've been listing them out all week, like financially prudent. She is a leader. She does have help. She's strong. She's capable. Her husband trusts her. All of the, I probably wrote down at least 24 qualities in these few short verses that she is, and all those things are things we should aspire to be. And so tell me what you think you're doing best in your life related to being a reflection of this ideal woman.
So I would say that I'm good at it says she opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. I think that I have a very mindfulness toward like people who have less than. And I think I'm doing a good job of like teaching my kids to also have that heart posture. I'd say that one. I'd say that it says for me, verse 26, she speaks with wisdom and faithful instruction and is on her tongue, which is the one we were talking about, the gossip, right? So I'd say, and that's been a new one, y'all. Every woman that I know personally in my life has at some point gossiped in their life. I've been guilty of it very badly. And I think that I've really shifted that mindset lately to not say anything negatively about anybody.
It just, whenever you're, like you just said, heart posture is in the right place, it makes you feel icky.
Yeah.
It's like a little bit fun when you're doing it. It's
Right.
like, it gets you a little bit, you know, it's fun. And then when you leave the conversation, you feel icky.
Yeah.
And drained.
Yeah. I feel like it's a God, like, conviction type thing.
I think you kind of actively start to avoid people who put you in those situations.
Yeah. That verse that I was telling you about literally says that you tell people, you tell them twice, I think. The verse says, you tell them twice, like, don't do this. Don't take the hammer to the temple. And then if they do it a third time, you cut them off, is what the Bible verse says. And then I'd say the third one that I'm really good at, and it's a blessing and a curse sometimes because I'm not good at resting, I feel like, is that she watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness, which is biblical, you know, like I have been in the past, but I'm not a lazy person. I keep myself busy. Yep.
You're very productive towards things that benefit your family and your home.
Yeah.
All right. I think I also was going to say for myself, she extends a helping hand to the poor and opens her arms to the needy. I think in general, my husband and I are both just very open-handed with the things God has given us, like monetarily wise or like resource wise. Like our home is open, we're willing to give away money or food or resources to whomever comes across that needs it because it's not ours. Like we truly feel that way. We really we really do. And that, like anything given to you, anything bestowed upon you is for the good of furthering God's kingdom and helping people who need it, because it's not ours.
Yeah.
So that one, and like you said, I really just want to bestow that or teach that to my kids, because that, I think, is how you really make a change in people's hearts related to being softened towards the Lord. Because Christians who are greedy with money, in my opinion, are being a huge stumbling block towards people coming to know the Lord. If a non-Christian is looking at a Christian and they see that their money, they like idolize money, or they see that they're greedy or stingy or whatever, like why would you want what that person has? They're not clearly trusting the Lord. They think they're building up treasures here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would say I plan the day's work for my servant girls. Not obviously that I have servant girls, but I do have help. My husband is helpful. We have a babysitter that's extremely helpful. We have some employees in the business that can be helpful. And so we just have, even though we don't have family around anymore like we used to, we do have the help, and I'm not shamed by it, right? So I have a lot going on here or there, or I just want rest or whatever. My husband and I aren't shy about like outsourcing for help when we need it, because we feel like it's wise to do. Like if you can do it, do it. Don't feel like you have to take on the burden of everybody for everything in your house. Let's see. And then, what would the third one? I'm like, no. What am I? Let's see. I would say the first verse. Who can find a virtuous and capable wife? I think my husband would agree. In most aspects, I am virtuous. I do highly value virtue. I highly value purity. In my current life, I highly value values and living by values. And I'm also very capable.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the things my husband likes best about me, that I am capable of tending to the things I need to tend to. I don't need a lot of like hand-holding or support from anyone. And I like that about myself, that I'm capable. I can do it.
Yeah.
I could, if everything fell apart tomorrow, I could support myself, work hard to make money, And I love that.
Yeah.
But what am I going to work on? Because I was like, work on. I'm going to work on that. Work on that. Number one, 100%. She laughs without fear of the future. Like, I want to embody that verse as far as the things that I want to really focus on this month about improving is, like I said, I'm not riddled with anxiety. I'm not crippled by anxiety, but it's there just rumbling around inside.
Yeah.
And I want to just laugh without fear of the future. And so practically what I'm going to do, I want to pursue more opportunities for laughter because laughter really is medicine and it really is healing for the soul. And I do think it expels anxiety. So even though I think I'm a fun person, we are a fun family, I want to really pursue those outlets for laughter. So those are the two things I want to focus on this week, this month.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good one. Should I do mine? Or
Sure.
What do you want to do? Okay.
What are you going to work on this month?
Okay. I want to work on, goodness gracious. Give me a second. Can you cut this out?
All right. My second one, I'm going to just work on two. I'm not going to overwhelm myself.
Okay.
First one, I'm going to laugh without fear of the future. Specifically, I'm going to look for opportunities of laughter and joy. I mean, it really does dispel anxiety. And number two, she gets up before dawn to prepare breakfast for her household. I'm not necessarily going to get up before dawn, but I am going to actively prepare more meals for my family because it does align with my value system. To be a servant in that way towards my family, to prepare meals for them.
The two things I would like to work on this week, just to make myself more of the Proverbs 31 woman, is it says in verse 12 that she brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. And when I think of that verse, I think of speaking life to my husband, speaking positive, not nagging, those things, just really encouraging him. The second thing I'd really like to work on is the waking up early part of that verse. I already cook our meals, but the waking up early because I want to be in communion with God early in the morning, so he can have the first part of my day. And that's the two things I want to work on. We'll see how it goes.
So actually, I also want to work on that.
Yeah.
I think my husband and I, she brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. I think my husband and I are a great team. We're best friends. We're partners in everything in life. But we have this little inside, it's not a joke, but I guess it's not a joke, where the Bible does say...
It's a joke. It's just not funny.
It's just not funny, yeah. So in Proverbs, it says that a nagging wife is like the dripping of a faucet. And I think we heard a sermon about it once or something where if I get to be nagging, he goes drip, drip, drip. And I'm just like, oh, I'm being like a dripping faucet right now. And so I really also want to, not that I nag a ton. I think my husband he's very happy with the ways I've improved in that area. But in general, like you said, speaking life to my husband, encouraging him and not... It's like, it's easy to encourage your husband. It's easy to speak positively to and about your husband, but just foregoing speaking the negative. Like a lot of times the negative does not need to be said.
Yeah.
So I need to work on that, and I will this month. But that was fun.
Yeah, it was.
This was a fun episode to record with you. I hope you guys not only were inspired by the Proverbs 31 woman, but also inspired to read your Bible and learn and know what it says because of your love for the Lord, and not just relying on the sound bites on Instagram to be the backbone of your faith.
Yeah. Really delving in, like it's been interesting because we will read the same verse and Mary and I have gotten different perspectives from it. So go dig into Proverbs 31 and see what God's speaking to you through the verses, and comment below like with what you get out of it, because it may be something totally different.
Yeah, it would be awesome if you would comment the things you think you're great at by God's grace, with these characteristics and these qualities and what you plan to work on in the next month. And we can all pray for and encourage each other.
Yeah.
But thank you for being here. Thank you for being here for part 2.
Make sure that you're following us on Instagram for updates and reels and encouragement and all of that good stuff. Make sure you're commenting your prayer request. Tell us what you're thinking about it and all of that good stuff. And
we are related by marriage.
We're related in Christ.
Join us each week as we chat all things related to motherhood.